So let's go on now to, we've got Pauline Talon, the Minister of Women Affairs, joining us as well today. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program.
Thank you, Pauline.
Okay, well, we also do have Tosin Odesonya, who is, he's highly dynamic and visionary entrepreneurial leader. He's was recently named SVP of Strategy and Transformation Programs at for financial purposes. Good morning, and thank you for joining us as well today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, and happy Independence Day to all my fellow Nigerians around the world.
Yeah, we also have Stanley Onyebuchi, who is a former NSBE chapter president, and he is also an engineer. Thanks for joining us, Stanley.
My pleasure. Yeah, happy Independence.
Well, last but not least, as they say, we have Dr. Kpenwosa Umobi, is a lawyer, of course, and he's got knowledge in law and its intersection with other disciplines. He also joins us this morning via Zoom. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Well, that's
okay. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Nigerians.
All right, let me start with you, Minister. Well, yes, indeed, the president did put up a speech, but well, the impression that some have is that something needs to be done about the divisions that exist out there. So, yes, there might have been a speech, but they think that we need to walk the talk if we need to move together, as the theme does say. What are your impressions, first and foremost?
Again, thank you very much, for having me this morning.
Pardon me, actually, that's for the Honourable Minister. Could you hang it a minute?
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians, and happy independence to everyone.
All right. Go ahead, please.
Today, as we mark our independence celebration, we all had the president's speech, and I want to congratulate all Nigerians, because what is lacking in Nigeria is we don't count our blessings, we don't appreciate what God has done for us. Nigeria is one of the countries that God has blessed so much. And 60 is a significant age in every country's history. Yes, we have some challenges, and every country has challenges, but we must walk and remain united. All hands on deck. All hands must be on in order to make Nigeria greater and a better country. And most important, I know and it's clear that because you will not raise your hand to kill anybody, all the vices, all the problems that we're facing as a nation is because we lack love for our country. So my appeal to Nigerians is that we must all join hands together as one united nations, love our country, and do the best, give back to our country what the country has given us, particularly those that were privileged to be born before 60 years. Nigeria, we knew there were so many opportunities. Students were given allowances. Everything was fine before you graduate. At least a job is waiting for you. But now the population has exploded beyond the resources that are available. But at the same time, if we don't address the problem of corruption, particularly as Mr. President is taking it as one of his main cardinal points for the president, for the country to address, we progress.
All right, Honourable Minister, so we've got these other Nigerians who actually, yes, they were in the country, but they left the country. So we will hear from them now to just get at least their perspective on the scheme of things. So maybe let me start with you, Mr. Odesonya. I'm not sure you heard or what part of the president's speech you may have heard, but if you could just talk to us about where you are, what you're doing. Why was it that you left the country in the first place?
No, great question, Chamberlain. And, again, thank you for having me, this morning. As far as, I did listen to the president's speech and I was inspired by it, I must say. I left the country 25 years ago, and really my parents made the decision for us to leave the country. I completed, JSS 3 at FEGO, Federal Government College of Dubolu, which, so shout out to all the FEGOtians out there. And I must say, over the past 25 years, right, I have been hyper-focused, one, on developing, myself, but at the same time, I've been also hyper-focused on thinking about Nigeria. And I think, thinking back over the 25 years, there have been times and moments when not only have I come back to Nigeria, but even tried to make the decision whether or not to move back from diaspora back to the country. So getting back to the question that was asked, right? I think when one of the things that really stood out to me from the president's speech was that it really isn't about the government. The government are the people. And I think at the end of the day, one of the things that I've found about a lot of Nigerians is that we tend to blame the government. We tend to put a lot of trust and dependency on the government. And we act like, that we as a people are not the ones that make up the government. So, if I really can just sum it up here, right? Every country, in my mind, deserves the government that they get, right? So we deserve the government that we get. And, until the average Nigerian, whether in Nigeria or whether in the diaspora, starts to lead and take self-actualization and accountability, I think we're going to always be in a position where that we do not come out of some of the challenges that we have today.
Okay, let me bring in Stanley here briefly. Now, the president actually spoke about Nigerians in diaspora. And he had good words to say about the fact that a lot of Nigerians in diaspora are making the country proud. And I'm not sure if you've heard this said time and again, but there's always that call to have Nigerians in diaspora come back home to at least contribute. Is that something you're considering or you're willing to do? What's the reaction really when you get, statements like that, asking Nigerians in diaspora to come back to the country to help out, as it were?
Yeah, I think it's a valid statement to make, right? And I think in order for me to consider it, for I think a lot of other people to think about it, the question we have to consider is why do people leave, right? And I think, just to be kind of brief about it, unfortunately, when a lot of us are young, there's an obsession or maybe an infatuation with Western culture, right? And so when we get to a certain age, there's a lot of desire to leave the country. For those of us who are lucky enough to kind of, or who have the privilege of, going over and studying abroad, right? You kind of notice a couple of glaring things missing when you compare that to the situation in Nigeria, right? For example, you talk about electricity, you talk about, basic infrastructures like the road, right? And I think for me, it has to be a trade-off of what am I sacrificing here versus if I was to go back home, right? And to kind of briefly touch on the kind of the topic around leadership and governance, right? I think it's true, everyone's individual, role as a human being is to lead their own life, right? But when a person gets into leadership of a higher scale, right? For example, the government, I think there should definitely be a very, very core push and focus for them to lead, right? They need to be responsible for the different areas where people have voted them into office to make change, right? So again, on my stance, I think every Nigerian in the diaspora loves Nigeria, right? But the question really is, if we were to come back, what are we trading off here? And what are we gaining if we move back into the country?
That's a significant angle to look at. But let me ask you, Dr. Umabi, so there's been a lot of talk about the inclusion of young people in politics, in leadership in Nigeria. Of course, historically, most of the people that championed the independence of Nigeria that we're celebrating 60 years after were young people. Most of them average 30 years, 35, 37, 40 years. But these days, it seems the interests of the young people who, by the way, you know, are way above average of the number of people who vote in Nigeria. What can we do to make our electoral process attractive to young people?
Yes, thank you very much. I want to say congratulations again to Channels Television and Nigeria as a whole. Happy independence. And yes, directly to your question, I think the first thing we have to do before we look at issues of election is to actually understand the problem of Nigeria. The fundamental problem of Nigeria is representation. Now you find representation expressing itself in different forms, in the form of ethnic competition, class competition, and religious competition. That is the core problem in Nigeria at the moment. And clearly that has been a problem since amalgamation. It has been a problem of representation. Now, when we talk about electoral system, without solving the very fundamental issue of representation that is at the core of the Nigerian project, then it's putting the cart before the horse. Like I said, and I will always say, when we have a problem of representation, there is a fundamental problem that creates that absence of representation. That is the absence of an overarching philosophy to guide national consciousness. The absence of national consciousness and a grand philosophy to guide national consciousness creates this idea of absence of representation. Now, if you have an electoral system that is created along the lines of what is done in other countries, without putting the context of the Nigerian system in its formation, it creates divergences, which we are seeing today. You find our political culture, the electoral system, until recently, when we're beginning to see reforms in the area of INEC, putting structures in place, it's not always been the case that we've had a free and fair election that is so credible that Nigerians would stand up and say, yes, we've done an election. Yes, we have said the Abiola election, the June 12 was brilliant, but clearly we should have a standard for election, for conducting election, on the basis of the prescription of a philosophy, a grand philosophy that guides national consciousness. So I want to stop there for now because there are fundamental issues that must be uprooted from our national psyche, that must be brought up to better understand the problem we're facing. Now, I left the country because I could see the incompleteness in our laws and in the legal system. The system, the tools that are available within the country, having qualified as a lawyer in Nigeria, I could see gaps. And these gaps were exploited by conflict economy.
Just hang on a minute.
And
now,
political entrepreneurs.
We have another perspective of a young person, but this time he's in Nigeria, so that we can hear his perspective out before we then let the Honorable Minister respond to all of this. Let's listen to him now.
About being Nigerian, I would say the resilience. I would say the resilience. That resilient mindset has sort of trained me to persistently be optimistic. And, you know, I would say I'm an optimistic person. And, of course, every human being is a product of their experiences in life. And, you know, so just facing issues, facing tough times, but still looking up, looking over those tough times, I think, you know, is what has built me to be who I am today. And I think that is a positive, definitely. I think for me, finding the positive has been just looking on the bright side, looking at the things that are there to be happy about, things are there to be proud of. You know, we have such a wealth of natural resource, and these resources aren't the normal one. You know, we have immense talent, you know, whether it be sports, whether it be entertainment, that's music, that's comedy, that's, you know, there's such an immense amount of talent. And, you know, this set of people have continued to make us proud, you know, sort of contradicting what the other group of people have continued to do over time. I think the best thing that we can do as Nigerians is to continue to be hopeful. It's very easy, and not for anyone's fault, to be honest, but it's very easy to give up, to sort of to not have any hope anymore, to be pessimistic. I think that's the word I was looking for. You know, it's very easy to say, it's never going to get better. You know, things are going to continue to be like this. There's no point. But I think it's very important to be optimistic, to be hopeful, and to sort of find a sense of patriotism, which is what we've lost, and a sense of selflessness. You know, it's still possible for us to care about each other, you know, just look out for each other, and not just simply care about our own personal pockets and our little circle, and just communal, a mindset of communal living. You know, I think that's what we need to have more of.
Well, Honorable Minister, well, having heard all of these, those are perspectives of some Nigerians, both abroad and back home here. How can government aggregate all of these views and ensure that it doesn't just end with speeches, but they see action to galvanize their impressions of Nigeria?
To revamp, particularly the broken down infrastructures. Mr. President, since the office, he's not a president that believes in starting new projects. He believes in continuity. He tries to at least rebuild his predecessor, they put a lot of measures to pushing the broken down infrastructures that have been broken down in the
All right, I'm afraid well, Honorable Minister, the connection is not that great, but yes, we get the point. I believe those listening also may have picked on a thing or two, but we have to thank you for talking to us today on the program, Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, Paul and Talent. Well, we also have had a gentleman who joined us from the States, but I must say that we are indeed, well, it was interesting to get your perspectives and having to stay up this late to even talk to us. I mean, yes, it's early morning here, but right there in the state, it's
3 a.m.
Wow, 3 a.m. but thereabout. And then in London, Dr. Kwanza is in UK as well. But this is an interesting conversation, and I don't think it will end here. So, gentlemen, we will definitely keep this going on in the days ahead. But we must sincerely thank you, Dr. Ikpeonsa Ohumavi, Tosin Odesanya, and Stanley Onyeochi. Thank you all for your perspectives. They were very interesting, and we do hope to get across to you in the days ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.